So in the week of the 6th anniversary of the very sad passing of Billy McNeill, thought it'd be a good opportunity to, Frank, to talk to yourself about a great man, a great Celtic legend, and big part of your career as well.
Massive part of my career, yeah. Always in his debt, because he brought me to Celtic, and he was just such a great man. The stature of, when you walk into Celtic, we keep talking about it, when you walk into Celtic Park, there's a big aura about the whole place. You walk in, big jocks there, it's, that famous quote, the shirts don't shrink to fit inferior players and all that kind of stuff. And Billy was a major part of that team, obviously. The great man lifted the big trophy. But to go in as a Celtic supporter and to sign and talk to one of your heroes about they want to sign you, and then walk in and he's my manager and Bobby Lennox was my coach and Jimmy's going about at that time. They were all going about Betty. I mean, it was just a wonderful time to join Celtic. And
he did a big presence about him. He was big in stature, but everything about
chest, the chest, they put the chest out and he'd storm in and and it was great. It really was. For me, it was like my dad. I mean, there's only two guys. Him and John Lyle were great to me as managers. So
there's something nice about when visitors turn up at Celtic Park. The first thing they see is that statue.
I know.
At the bottom of the Celtic Way.
Quite rightly so.
Aye.
Quite rightly so. It's every time I go there, you just can't. You don't think anything else but the gaffer. It was wonderful.
You probably caused a few grey hairs in his head, right?
Probably, but his family dinners apparently, because I got to know his daughters, and they used to go out, and I became friends when I used to see them when I was out, and they used to say, we always knew if you turned up early on a Monday for training, because if you weren't in there, it would come in. The dinner was
slamming doors and all that stuff.
Yeah, he was slamming doors and putting the plate down, and Liz had to tell him off. I saw it's on again.
But before we talk about what caused you to irritate Big Billy, right? But when you signed, and it's 1987, can you remember the build up to it? When you first learned that
they just get knocked out. Well, see, the thing is, I got a lot of offers from down south. There was teams coming in for us, and there was teams in Italy coming in for us, and obviously we spoke about the other side before. But John Lyle knew the only club I wanted to leave for was Celtic. The only club I wanted to play for. So, I went down to West Ham, and don't get me wrong, I love West Ham, love the supporters, but they understand Celtic's my team. So that was the only team that I would leave for, and it was great when Billy came in. Rangers were buying all the big names, internationals, because we first time in a long time we got into Europe and we couldn't get playing because Liverpool.
What happened?
Liverpool, so we couldn't get it. So all the players were coming up to Scotland.
I
always wanted to play against the best. And that's why I went to England, and then they were coming up here, and I thought, and Billy came in for me, and when Billy comes in, Billy came down and spoke to me, and I'm talking to him.
So he went down to London and met you face to face?
He came down and let me face to face. The old biscuit tin board, those horrible people, they were talking to my agent. And Billy's saying, Rangers are buying all these big international players, superstars and all that, so we've come in for you. And I went, what? He says, I didn't mean that, we're coming in for Celtic supporters. And that's the way he put it. And it was great. And I'm sitting talking to him. And this is how I knew it was going to go on. He's going, what do you remember? I said, obviously remember you. It was that boy lifting the trophy. I said, but what happened with that? My dad took me to Celtic Park, came round the pitch with the trophy.
European Cup, and they were round the back of a lorry.
It was a lorry, it was a coal lorry. I said, what was all that? But he says, Celtic wouldn't give us a bus. He says, so it was one of them. And the story was brilliant. He was telling us Bobby Lennox's wife, brother or something, knew a pal who's his buddy was a coal
merchant, and he gave us a lorry.
And I was going, really? I mean, it's just you couldn't. I'm talking to him about this.
But on that day though, you went there.
I went there. My dad took me to Celtic Park,
and you watched them going round the track in the back of that coal lorry.
It was backfiring and all that. At one point, I thought the postal boys were going to fire back at them. It was incredible just to see that, because we see in the telly, watch the game, And it was in black and white, and it was great.
Yeah.
And then going to see them coming round,
Yeah.
you know, that's the history. And Billy used to say, he used to always tell me, you know, this place is for making heroes, it's for making magical things happen. Mm-hmm. And it's a fairy tale. He said that after the cup final in the league. You know, we had no right to win the league that year in Centenary. I mean, it was the players that we were playing against at Rangers were outstanding. I mean, they were outstanding, but we had Celtic supporters and it made all the difference. Every one of us were a Celtic supporter, so it made a big difference because we were scoring in the 92nd minute. And Billy, and people keep talking about fitness and all that. There was nobody fitter than us. You know, can Billy put us through it?
Yeah.
You know, and he didn't. Tommy Craig was there to give us it. He was the one that came shouting, but when Billy turned up, unfortunately, when he turned up, it was bang. It goes up 3 notches.
Aye.
You know?
Well, what was his kind of team talks like? Can you remember much about the
there's a couple
changing room before matches?
He got carried away sometimes, you know. He's a bump to the bump, all that, and he bang it. He just knew gadget, you know. And I used to laugh because he just gadget, and we're playing Honved, and the tactics that week we were going to Honved was Mick Jackson apparently had went and seen him.
Aye.
Push out because they don't hit the ball over the top.
Right.
So we worked all week pushing out. Everything happened. Anyway, the game started, they put it back, boys pushed out, and the guy just put his run, the guy pinged it straight over the top, so you can imagine Mick McCarthy, and Billy's looking at Mick Jackson. He's obviously been there for a freebie and all that.
He hasn't bothered watching them.
So he's gave all that, so that was it. We get beat 1-0. And we get back to Celtic Park and he's banging the board, but it was funny because he was getting all excited because he's going, we're not getting put by this mob, and it was, everybody's here to see you play, and you know, and Billy used this word a lot, and it doesn't get used now. Entertainment, it doesn't get used now. You know, so they bore the pants off you sometimes, some of the games, but it was one of them. There's a full house tonight. You're going to entertain him, and he's banging his board behind him, and the magnets kept falling into the bin. And of course, I can't stop laughing, you know. What are you laughing at? I says, we're playing against nobody. And that was when they came out with this great saying. He says, and he looked when he was raging, and he says, right, if you don't take 4 after this mob, you're all going to George Square and burn your asses. Pulling the trousers down, burn your asses in the shop window, something like that. It was funny, and so we scored 4, thank God.
You got a couple that night, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I got a couple, so it was good.
But just do what you did in the injury time of the last 2 or 3 minutes against Dundee United and the Centenary Cup final.
That made me so proud because as a captain, Billy was there, and it was, you know, and they brought him back with Davy Hay, you know, and they brought him. I think they met him in a car park and brought him back, you know, which was, it should have been up there in lights that he's coming back because he's such a great presence at the club. So it was wonderful to be there and be with the guy, and everybody knew I loved him. It was, and he used to say, I'm dropping him, and the boys would say, you can't drop him, you know. And
this is because you're a late arrival back up on a Monday morning.
Oh, he used to. I think I've told you about the Rome trip. No, I don't think so. When he get knocked out of the League Cup, this is at the start. He get knocked out of the League Cup, and I used to laugh and say, if you'd bought me before we get the League Cup game, we'd have won the treble and all that. I'm laughing. So he get knocked out of the League Cup, signed me, and a couple of weeks later, with a free weekend, because it was the League Cup week. So with the free weekend. So I says, Gaffer, I've still got things to do in London. I said, I got a house and all that. I've got to sort out, and a couple of houses. And he went, okay, take Friday and Monday off. I said, brilliant. So I went with the girlfriend straight over to Rome. I went for a wee trip to Rome. I'm having a great time. And I'm sitting on Saturday night, sitting in a restaurant, pretty beautiful restaurant, with a bottle of champagne, and the girlfriend, Mick Jackson, walks in with his wife, and I'm thinking, oh no. In Rome. It couldn't happen, and I'm thinking,
what's the chances of that?
What's the chances of that? So, especially being in the restaurant, it was very expensive. I don't know what Mick was doing there. Anyway, he said, hello, Frank. I says, hi, Mick. How you doing? I says, don't suppose there's any chance that you'll no say nothing to the gaffer? He says, you're right. There's no chance. So I had a good meal. I thought, I still took the Monday off. Back on Tuesday.
Well, might as well hung for a sheep as a lamb.
And he's talking, Billy's in talking, how's your good week? Frank, office, somewhere. And he says, take a seat. So I've sat down, and I'm waiting on it coming out. And he says, how's your weekend, son? And he says, how was London? I says, it was brilliant, Gaff. I said, by the way, Pope was asking for you. And I just walked in. I said, before I got out the door, he says, you're fined a week's wages. But he used to bribe me and give me it back, say, score against Rangers, I'll get your wages back and all that kind of stuff. It was a bribe.
Aye.
But it was great. It was
great. A lot for your late arrival on a Monday.
I was, only sometimes. I mean, it was blown out of proportion, but it was only sometimes.
And then the boys at 88 centenary team, I think, stayed in touch with Billy and saw him a fair amount, towards the end when illness took hold. And
we used to go up and see him, me, Andy and B. Joe and Packy, and I used to go up and see him a lot. So it was let Liz go and do shopping and he was getting, but as Liz used to say, I'll never forget your voice. Because we had this centenary get together.
Was it the anniversary a few years ago?
And he come in the wheelchair. And I'm, I'm holding court, I'm having a laugh, and he had a smile on his face, and Liz says, he'll never forget that voice, which is brilliant. He grabbed my hand, and it was just wonderful. It's a horrible.
It's a reminder how quick time passes as well. 6 years,
Yes.
Something like that. But a Celtic great, and
a big fit man, a big proud fit man, and to see illnesses like that, so
completely
waste away. So my advice is just live every day, enjoy yourself, completely. Because it can go anytime.
He did something that arguably, no other Celtic player will ever get to do again, and that's lift the European Cup.
Listen, the Lisbon Lions, I mean, people keep saying to me, what's your best team? Who should pick your best team, at Celtic? And I said, Lisbon Lions.
That's it.
Who can you take out? I mean, they've done what nobody else can do. So it's, I know to live in 20 miles or 25 miles of Glasgow. I mean, that'll never happen again. And the way they played football, I remember it. The young boys not now, I don't remember it. The way they played football was the way I'd love to see now.
Yeah.
Because they used to tell me, Billy used to tell me stories when I'm sitting talking to him. I go and grab him, and he used to tell me about Jimmy. When they were knackered, they just get Jimmy.
Get Jinky, and he would...
Jinky Johnson, he'd get me. I mean, he'd keep it for 30, 40 seconds. He says, in a football park, Simon, that's a long time.
A long time to get a breath back.
So they'd get their breath back.
I always think of that joke, not a joke, the story Bertie Auld tells, or used to tell, when he was with us, and somebody asked him, how do you think the Lisbon Lions would do against that great Rangers team in the 90s? And he says, I think it'd be one each.
Aye.
He says, mind you, we're on the late 60s
now. Yeah, that's what they were like. But, not just Billy, but every single one of the Lions was very humble. They were very gracious. Got a lot of time for the supporters, which I think the players nowadays, I mean, we did. In the centenary team, that era, we had a lot of time for the supporters. Yeah. I don't think it's too much to ask that the players today should do that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Billy wouldn't have had it any other way.
I think
that's
the difference now, though.
That's wrong. I know it's Brendan, and I know it's different times, but Billy would not have let us walk out, no sign things and no answer things.
How would you have got on if you went out and about, met supporters and on a night out, and everybody had a phone filming everything you did?
Well, listen, you've got to go out. And you've got to go out. I think if somebody sees you do that in a nightclub, the bouncers would put them out. I think, especially where I went, the boys, I get looked after. So to be fair, it would be hidden. But I wasn't, you're enjoying yourself, you're out enjoying yourself. I never fell out of clubs and all that. That's one thing I didn't do.
Yeah. Well, 6 years, but, you are able to, tell everybody that you possibly gave Big Billy McNeill his greatest moment as a Celtic manager, and that's centenary season at Hampden Park. But it's part of a team. It's part of a team, obviously.
A major part of a team.
And he did say at the time, he said, I'm sure you told me, or somebody told me that at the end of the game, he said, everybody, you'll be remembered in 100 years for what you've done.
No, it was Tommy. That was Tommy Burns that says that. Do the part. He says, you don't understand, Frank. I'm going, what? He says, we'll be, in 100 years, we'll be remembered. Yeah. This for what we've done here. Yeah. I didn't know, it was Billy that told me, I think there's only 4 teams won the league in their centenary year. Yeah. I don't, so it's a great thing, especially, as I say, with the challenge coming from the other side of the city. It was huge. But, we were just that team, And, we went to weddings, and Billy came to weddings and all that, the boys. It was great, and we were a close-knit team. Right. We were a very close-knit, even now we're very, close, and it's just a shame McGaffer's not here to join in.
No, that is a shame. But you've got 3 years to plan the 40th anniversary of the senior team, so you can get your thinking cap on.
Get my thinking cap on. I know I'm doing the same doing at West Ham as well, because they're doing the 40th. That's 86.
That's next summer.
So yeah, I've got a busy year next year.
Aye. Oh well.
So it'll be good.
Well, that was really good to reminisce about Cesar, and
I think nothing better to talk about than old Gaffer. It's brilliant. God rest him.
Well, hope you all enjoyed that, Frank, reminiscing about a great manager that was Billy McNeill, and the anniversary.
Yeah.
6 years since his sad passing.
As I said in Twitter, gone, or gone but not forgotten.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll see you again for another episode of Let Me Be Frank soon. Take care.
Take care.